Thank you very much, Dean Jenny Phillips. We touched among many very challenging points, just logically empathize. What does it mean concretely? Implementation of SDGs. So we want now to give you the opportunity that you can really challenge our speakers, Professor Stephen Park, Dean Jenny Phillips, and those who are here. We appreciate that you came here. Take the microphone, while our colleagues online feel welcome to use the chat room to ask the question.
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Professor Park. I'm impressed by the video that you made. And then I think I am one of the murderers as well. So it made me reflect. And another thing I was impressed is the slides that you show industrial action and divided world will at 3 dimensions. Ecological self is not equal to nature. Is it sociological? I'm not quite sure. And then self doesn't equal to others. And then spiritual self doesn't equal to self. And actually, the most impressive to me is spiritual level. It's the first time I have this in mind: commerce, business with spirituality. Because I myself is interested in spirituality, and then I see your models. A lot can be done in a business school to, like, in the perspective of ecological and sociological, if I'm not wrong. But like at the level of spirituality, I wonder how can a commerce school can reach to a spiritual level, which to me, spirituality brings out the most important issue is to love. And I think it's difficult to educate people to love in a deep sense. How can you educate a person to love if you don't have that feeling yourself? So I think it's a very good point in the commercial. If you are moved, that means you have your inside, you have the compassion, you have a feeling of mercy and love. So you're moved, then you do business in a very sensible way or very healthy way. But like I think it's challenging for a commerce school to adapt that level. Yeah, that's my query. It's not my challenge. It's not my question. That's what I have in my mind after listening to your talk, which is very beneficial to me. And it's surprisingly, spirituality can be connected with commerce and business. Yes, that's my point of view.
Yeah, thank you so much for the comment. And for your information, there is for example, academic association called Academy of Management. It's a big, the association, academic association, starting from US. And for the last now 3 decades, there is a group of research group within this very prestigious Academy of Management, the association. The subgroup name is Spirituality in Business. So people are talking about this issue. And when it comes to spirituality, it sounds, rather non-commerce kind of terminology, of course. But when we say spirituality, it's about reflection about some value, eternal value, spirituality, right? Quality of spirit. And it doesn't have to be like like a church seminar or something like that, but it may be just like the student trip to Indonesia, the photo that I showed to you. And after the day trip, we return back to hotel and we share together what we reflect on. I mean, what we thought about, what we felt about looking at this Indonesian friends, so on. Then they think about, something, deep inside, right? So I think that's the sort of spirituality, and unless we touch upon that level of students' mind, we cannot make impact on from the education we're talking about. If we are talking about the kind of education, something like responsible management education, which should all involve, as Pope Francis mentioned, ecological conversion. The ecological conversion can be possible at this level, right? So I agree with you. I mean, spirit and business, some people will be, very, but not even comfortable with this kind of discussion. But I think more and more people adopt this kind of concept. And as I said already, there is a big, very, great scholars over time in management studies looking at this issue. So I think more and more this kind of this topic, spirituality in business, will be in the mainstream business research, I believe. So it's next dimension of organization culture, if I can say, So
that's right. I want also to inform you that this topic, this link between spirituality and business, has really gained respectability. And I've been involved in a project driven by Princeton University. There is a professor, David Miller, with whom we work since many years, and also another Hungarian professor, László Szolnay, and Eleonora Higgins. And in the last Chinese translation of Vocation of a Business Leader with the traditional Chinese characters, we have an article by László Szolnay and Eleonora Higgins. Just to say that this is taken very serious. It's not just some people who vaguely believe in spirituality, but also as a topic of management science is taken really very serious. And I think it's an honor to be involved with these scholars to develop this link. Jenny, would you also kind of react to this?
Okay, thank you. Actually, what Zoe mentioned just now about first of all, how to teach people about love, right? I don't think it is possible because people are different. But there are people who can easily sympathize and empathize with people, but then there are people who can hardly empathize. Or we can say that these people are cold-blooded. But does it mean that I could be one of them? I have difficulty empathizing. Okay, so for example, because there are people who comes with understanding about what is right or wrong. So the video we saw just now, it's a very emotional video. But what I see, I guess the difference is when Zoe sees, you feel, right, the difficulty. When I see it, I understand the right or wrong, but I do not feel the feeling, right? Okay, because like I said, there are people who are different, but from the business perspective, we are not trying to change who they are. What we are trying to do is to make them understand right or wrong and see if continue doing the wrong choices, how it is going to affect. And by doing, we are trying to change our students from that way. Like the example I mentioned about the supplier A and supplier B. And in the end, the student understand why they should choose supplier B, not supplier A, because they understand, okay, if everyone choose supplier A, which means everyone is supporting irresponsible business. So
more and more factories are going to use child labor. More and more factories are going to overwork workers. People don't see this as a problem anymore. Responsible business like supplier B would be out of business because of that. So I think sometimes to help the students open up and see the consequence, help the business leaders see how this is affecting the others. They might be they could do it out of love, but they could do it out of responsibility, right? Because they should learn what we are trying to change is for them to understand how their action or a decision they make can impact other people or impact the world. And for people who are even more cold-blooded, I could go as far as telling the issue about, okay, we don't care about polluting the water nowadays. Doesn't matter, doesn't affect us now, but in 50 years' time, I believe there's scientific record showing that if we don't act now, in 50 years, there will be very limited clean water. I don't care, I will be dead already, but what about your children, your grandchildren, right? Yes, I know. But how about your next generation, right? So trying to see how our actions now, this is the sustainability that we are teaching, how our actions now are impacting the next generation. So I believe this is something that it's a different type of spirituality. It's about looking at the world as a whole. It's looking at how I could affect the world. See how important I am. Okay, but I use a plastic straw today, and then I can kill how many fish, and this is going to contribute to how much pollution and how much of that. By understanding what I see, the responsibility of business is by understanding how their action can affect the others. It's not about doing more. It's about how their action are impacting others and how these are interlinked. And I think this could be, if through this we can increase their caring and love, it would be good. But if we can't teach them how to love the world, at least we can teach them how to see, teach them how to understand the consequences of their action. This is how I would see, I see as the spirituality of business that is coming from the overall view of all is one, one is all, right?
Now, I hope I don't tell you a mystery, but among Jesuits, we actually think it's not that on the university we would have the deepest impact. I hope I don't disappoint you, Dean Philip, but in the middle school. So now we have the chance that the director of a middle school is here, Miss Irene Chung. And of course, we are very eager. We humbly admit that we sometimes are too late in influence people, as we all wish, as Dean Jenny described, but we are eager. Maybe you share some of the mysteries why we think, also, for instance, in the States, we sometimes think you have a much more deeper, lasting influence on the students. So maybe if you want, you can share how you also kind of infuse these values among the students. Yeah, please, Irene. Irene Chung.
Thank you, Father Wathlin, for inviting me to give my reflections and comments. And first of all, thanks to Professor Park for your inspirational and really reflective sharing, and thanks to Jenny Phillips for your also your sharing and your reflections. For me, really, throughout the presentation, I was very touched, especially you began with Father Ricci. The school I'm serving is Collegio Matteo Ricci. Our school is named after Father Ricci. And our kindergarten is located just next door to St. Anthony's Church. So he's really much connected. And from the experience of Father Ricci and from the experience of Father Andrew Kim, their examples or how they lived their life, how they influenced their age, and also hundreds years later have been great examples and their own personal witness. And as you share through your presentation, you mentioned about the paradigm shift. Probably these two heroes had been living beyond their times, and they had insights. And for us now, as you mentioned, moving from the Industrial Revolution, and now probably we are at the junction. If we are going to have the system collapse, or we would be could be transforming, or I forgot the term you mentioned in the PowerPoint, sorry. But then are we moving to which direction? And then as Jenny just mentioned, most of the students or even from the high school or younger students in the education system, but this is recorded, but never mind, I speak from my heart. Most of the students or even the parents or in the present system of education is more linear. So you pass the subjects and then you are promoted to the next grade. And then when you finish your high school, then you get a high marks and then you go to the university. And after going to the university, they get a job and then make money and enjoy their life. So it's quite linear. And how we could, as Father Wathlin had much expectation from the high school or the pre-university level, how to really reflect on the meaning of lives rather than just have the sense of just getting what maybe what they want, or in the worldly perspective is the sense of recognition is valued by the money they are making or the possessions they are having, rather than the contribution they could be changing the world, or what they could be like using their skills or their talents to be an agent of change. So this could be very transformational also, other than the having perspective, but moving towards what you just mentioned, the being perspective, how we could help them to love, and is to begin with loving themselves and to value their lives from their hearts. It's not being compared with the others, but how to recognize their own identity. For me, something quite heartbreaking, also the way the students would really compare among themselves or even among schools. Macau is a very small place, and it's like how to be more competitive, or the recognition for the success. So how we could bring peace through commerce and peace through education would be very meaningful and would be very urgent also for myself. If we are moving towards this system collapse, or we are moving towards the transformation as a whole, the meaning of the being. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great to hear, Irene, and just to illustrate this very rich sharing, we can say that during Holy Week, we have been in the Lebanon with a small group of Macau. And obviously, this is not for tourist reasons, but for me, the deepest motivation is to inspire students for attitude of solidarity, subsidiarity. And also my experience with similar exposure programs in India is when even the laziest student sees poverty, famine, this is the case in the Lebanon, where people queue up for food, then this is an ultimate inspiration, to kind of do something for the common good. So that is also a research project we pursue with hunger communities, food banks, so that we can align also with the Kircher network in Europe. Now, question also to the online participants, is there any urgent kind of questions to be answered? Otherwise, I think we can wrap up, and I think we have been a very rich sharing and analysis. If you want kind of make a last statement of, if you want, Professor Stephen Park.
And once again, thank you so much for your attention this afternoon, and also very helpful comments and conversation. And yes, yeah, especially this school. In Korea, we have similar problems. It's a systemic problem. So how can we make the world into the right direction? Not just collapse, but we move on. It all depends on us. And that means government, and that means NGOs, and of course, schools, churches, and business. So everyone together should work toward it that way. But particularly, I'm looking at business is important because, after all, business impacts our lives a lot, right? For example, Samsung employs 500,000 people around the world. If Samsung changes, 500,000 will enjoy a different life. And 500,000 multiplied by 4, right? 2 million families of Samsung will enjoy a different life. And how many customers are there using Samsung Galaxy? Oh, many people. So Samsung changes, the world will change. Okay, so business has an impact. Okay, so but still, I mean, as teacher said, I mean, the government has a role, and has a role, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much for your attention this afternoon, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity I have today. And I would like to suggest that we move on together. Okay, thank you.